You're listening to Swift News, your daily news briefing in just 10 minutes. This is episode 58, and it's June 30, 2025. Let's get into today's stories.
Welcome to the deep dive. We take the daily Swift News briefing and, well, we dig a little deeper, looking for those connections under the surface.
Exactly, helping you cut through the noise and see how these headlines, link up.
Today, that's June 30th, episode 58, and our mission really is to connect those dots for you from global events right down to maybe how it affects things closer to home.
It's crucial, isn't it? Things rarely happen in isolation. What we see today is a perfect example. Security, economy, tech, even human stories. They're all sort of intertwined.
Absolutely. Let's start with global affairs. Things feel pretty active. India's got a new external intelligence chief, Parag Jain. He's a seasoned IPS officer.
Right, Indian police service background.
Taking over R&AW, India's main foreign intelligence agency. Now, this isn't just shuffling chairs, is it? Could signal something more. Well, it's potentially significant. The timing, the choice of an IPS officer succeeding Ravi Singh. It makes you wonder. It could mean maybe a stronger focus on threats that have both internal and external links, or perhaps just a more integrated approach overall. The leader sets the tone, the strategic direction. So yeah, definitely one to watch for India's role globally.
And speaking of global dynamics, tensions seem to be, ratcheting up. We've got this warning from the UN watchdog chief. Iran might resume uranium enrichment within months.
Yeah, and that's despite those previous U.S. and Israeli strikes. It's a serious development.
It really is, and you see the diplomatic scramble happening right alongside it.
Yeah.
Israeli Minister Ron Dermer was just in Washington.
Meeting U.S. officials?
Talking Gaza, talking Iran, and this is just before Netanyahu's planned White House visit.
It highlights how persistent this challenge is. Military action hasn't, fully resolved it. So now it's back to high-stakes diplomacy, trying to manage or de-escalate a threat that just won't go away.
And then, add to that, the Ukraine conflict is intensifying again. Russia launched its largest air attack on Kyiv since 2022, apparently.
A major escalation there.
And totally different part of the world.
Yeah.
Thousands protesting in Bangkok, Thailand, demanding political reforms. These seem so separate. Are we just forcing connections here?
That's a fair question. On the surface, yes, very different contexts. But if you step back, I think they all point to this period of increased global instability. Challenges to the way things are supposed to work.
Yeah.
Ukraine is a direct challenge to sovereignty, Iran to non-proliferation. Even the Thailand protests, though domestic, reflect a kind of global mood, people demanding change. So these flashpoints, they create ripples, don't they? They affect supply chains, energy, maybe even just your general sense of security wherever you are.
It's definitely a complex picture. And those ripples, they hit the economy too and drive technology forward. Let's maybe pivot to that.
Yeah, let's look at the markets in tech.
Okay, economically, it's a real mixed bag. India's Sensex dipped slightly, maybe reacting to those U.S.-Iran intentions we mentioned.
Quite possibly. Emerging markets often feel that geopolitical heat first.
But then the Nasdaq hits a record high, up 4.4% in June. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It shows the resilience, or maybe the dominance, of the tech sector, particularly in the U.S. Investors perhaps see it as safer from these immediate shocks.
And then there's oil. Crude prices are climbing because U.S. stockpiles are falling, which makes you ask that old question, higher gas prices coming.
It's the classic setup, right? Falling supply, Middle East tensions, that usually points towards higher costs at the pump eventually, affecting inflation globally.
Amidst all that, though, some positive local stories. India's small and medium businesses, MSMEs, their credit access surged by, 41 trillion rupees.
That's huge. That's real grassroots growth, showing strong domestic entrepreneurship, financial backing. It's about empowering those local economies.
Yeah, really significant. And China's semiconductor exports are up 10%, putting pressure on global chip markets.
Which is more than just trade figures. It's strategic. China pushing for tech self-reliance. This could lead to different tech standards, maybe more complex supply chains for companies globally.
We're also seeing these regional boosts, like South Africa's tourism adding 60,000 jobs. That's big for their recovery.
Shows the service sector bouncing back.
And Germany's green tech investments are driving manufacturing growth, about 7%.
Which points to a different strategy, right? Not just recovery, but building future industries. Investing in green tech as an economic engine, it shows different regions finding their own paths forward.
Okay, let's switch gears to tech. It feels like it's moving incredibly fast. India's space program, for instance, Shubhanshu Shukla just wrapped up experiments on the ISS Axiom 4.
Yeah, that's a big step for India in space. It shows their growing capability contributing to international science. Things like testing materials for building things in space or studying microgravity effects,
Hmm.
research that could eventually benefit us back here on Earth, understanding diseases, things like that.
Right. And back on Earth, more practical tech news. Air India finished software upgrades on its Boeing 787s, getting 20 planes back flying. That's important for safety and operations.
Definitely. Foundational stuff for keeping things moving.
Then there's cyber defense. U.S. Army's Brandon Pugh was talking strategy at the Aspen Ideas Festival, always critical.
Increasingly so. Protecting infrastructure is key.
And this is interesting, a U.S. startup using AI to improve hurricane forecasting, especially timely as some Defense Department satellite data ends today.
Yeah, it's a great example of tech filling a gap, potentially saving lives. When old data sources change, you need innovation like that for disaster readiness.
And looking way ahead, Japan's doing 6G trials, hitting speeds like 120 gigabits per second, aiming for a 2030 rollout.
Wow. It's not just about speed, is it? It's about how these technologies fundamentally change things, how we connect, predict, respond to challenges. It's all driving towards a more, well, connected and hopefully resilient world.
Okay, so from global tech and markets, let's bring it down to the human level. The stories of triumphs, challenges, resilience around the world.
Right, the people behind the headlines.
Let's start with sports. India seems to be dominating England in the Chennai cricket test. Rishabh Pant hit a century.
Huge for Indian cricket fans.
Yeah.
Massive national pride there.
And Manchester City won the Club World Cup final. Football dominance.
Yeah, these big wins, they reflect national passion, but also the huge global business of sports today. It shows where the investment and talent are concentrated.
And we're seeing preparations elsewhere, too. Kenya's women's volleyball team gearing up for the African Championships. Brazil's soccer team training for World Cup qualifiers. New talent emerging, like an Indian player in Australian Open qualifiers.
Lots of future focus, building teams, nurturing talent globally.
Switching to culture and entertainment. In India, the movie Houseful 5 crossed 150 crore. Big box office success.
Shows the power of Bollywood, absolutely.
And globally, Nigeria's Afrobeats Festival in New York drew 50,000 people. That's incredible reach.
Amazing. It really highlights how music, especially African music now, travels globally, connects diasporas, acts as this huge cultural bridge.
Yeah. And a London exhibit on climate art is getting international praise. Japan's anime exports hit $3.2 billion, mostly thanks to streaming.
So culture isn't just entertainment, it's commentary, like the climate art, and it's a massive economic force like anime. It connects people, influences markets. Soft power, really.
But the human story isn't always positive. We have to talk about the environment and recent disasters. The death toll from that cloudburst in Uttarkashi, India is now 10. Heavy rains still forecast.
Tragic news. And the Himachal Pradesh floods claimed 12 lives, too.
And now red alerts for heavy rain in Kerala and Jammu and Kashmir as well. It's a stark reminder of, well, climate change realities.
Well, it really is devastating. But at the same time, we're seeing efforts to combat it. Canada's expanding wind farms, powering 800,000 homes now.
That's progress.
And Brazil's Amazon reforestation effort planted 5 million trees this year alone. So you have this tension, the urgent reality of disasters, but also critical progress in renewables and conservation. It makes those efforts feel incredibly important.
Absolutely. And finally, let's highlight some individual stories. Real ingenuity, real compassion making a difference locally. Like a Kenyan scientist's low-cost solar dryer.
Helping 7,000 farmers boost their crop yields. That's direct impact on food security, on livelihoods.
Exactly. Or an Indian doctor's mobile health clinic serving 4,000 people in rural Bihar.
Tackling healthcare access right where it's needed most. These local solutions are often so powerful because they're tailored to specific needs.
And a Brazilian teacher running a STEM program for 3,000 young people in the Amazon.
Empowering the next generation with vital skills, especially in such a critical region.
And a U.S. engineer designing flood-resistant homes for 2,500 families in coastal areas.
Again, a direct response to climate vulnerability, providing real security. These stories really show that change often starts from the ground up.
So wrapping up our deep dive today. Think about this mix we've seen. Big global tensions, unpredictable markets, mind-bending tech advances.
The macro view.
But then, alongside all that, these incredibly powerful local stories. Individuals tackling huge challenges with smart, compassionate solutions. So what does that tell you about where real change comes from? Is it the top-down strategies, or is it this bottom-up resilience and innovation?
Or maybe more likely it's the interplay between them both, right?
Yeah.
How they influence each other.
Something to think about. That's been your deep dive for today. We try to keep you informed and hopefully inspired. Join us tomorrow for episode 59. And you can follow us on X to share your thoughts. Stay curious, stay informed. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.